Welcome to the Fatigue Files, a podcast that explores fatigue conditions from as many angles as possible while pushing the boundaries of thinking about fatigue as a signal to the 21st century and beyond. Cutting-edge thinking, practical strategies, thought-provoking explorations. They're going to all be here, and I'm your host, Anna Greer, welcoming you to this edition of the Fatigue Files. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Fatigue Files podcast, and I'm delighted to have with me today Dawn Wiley, who some of you will definitely know of. She runs an online Facebook group which is an adventure in vagal nerve stimulation, and she's pretty much using herself as a wonderful nervous system laboratory and sharing what she learns, sharing her experiences with others in a very generous way. So welcome, Dawn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's absolutely gorgeous to have you. And I would love to start, Dawn, with a little bit of your story and how you got into all this adventuring in the world of the vagus nerve.
I got sick in 1993 with a virus and I didn't recover. It's a very common story for people, isn't it? I was bedridden 21 years from the late 90s, and I got a POTS diagnosis in 2018. I had POTS meds given, and that was useful, but it did not get me out of bed every day. So I could maybe do something, but then I crashed for weeks afterwards. And however, I read a hypothesis by Dr. Van Elseker, and he hypothesized that the HHV6 virus attacks the vagus nerve and remains dormant within. So that's a very brief overlay, and I'm sorry, Dr. Van Elseker, for making it so simplistic. But it did chime a bell with me that I don't know which virus started my journey, but I thought, could that be any virus? And what would happen if I stimulated my vagus nerve? So that's where it kind of began. And that was 2020, I believe. And I couldn't afford the dedicated device. A dedicated vagus nerve stimulating device, or about £700 for parasim or Neurasim. So I tried to work out, how can I do this affordably? And this is where it took months because I was bedridden at that point. It took months for me to work out how to use a TENS machine, a suitable programmable TENS machine and an air clip to the right settings. And that's where my Vegas adventure began. So
that's amazing. 21 years bedbound, Dawn. That's really, really heavy.
Oh, it was hard, very hard, and difficult to keep a flame of hope alive. But I carried on trying random things, treatments, supplements, and it really wasn't until vagus nerve stimulation that I moved forward in a bigger leap than anything else. So it's key to my story is that my vagus nerve is damaged. Now, whether that is via Dr. Van Elseker's hypothesis or whether it is a mechanical thing such as, you can get neck compression and things with EDS that maybe cause compression of the vagus. So I don't know which it is, but either way, I'm very happy that I discovered vagus nerve stimulation.
So what's your best sense, Dawn, of the mechanism of the relationship between the vagus stimulation and the effect on the virus, or any virus that's kind of dormant in the vagal system? What's your sense of what the stimulation is doing there in relation to the virus?
Well, it would be a theory. It wouldn't be, I'm not sure I have enough medical knowledge to make a stab at that. It would be challenging to think what's actually happening down to a physiological level. Now, is the stimulation shifting the dormant virus? That's a possibility, I'm guessing. But honestly, we don't know. I don't know.
So how did you make the leap? Because it seems like a remarkable intuition. You read a paper that hypothesized that the virus is in the vagus nerve, dormant and presumably activating at various times. And you asked the question, what would happen if I stimulate the vagus nerve, which is basically what you've been doing, presumably with results. That, because you're speaking in the past tense of being bedbound for 21 years. So clearly, whatever you're doing, Dawn, is working for you in some way. So what led you to that intuition, do you think?
Well, I think I was looking at, now bearing in mind this is 3 years ago, I was randomly Googling vagus nerve treatments, vagus nerve, how can you help cure, heal the vagus nerve? And vagus nerve stimulation would have been the top of that list. And there are various ways around doing that. You can do that via massage techniques. You can massage your ear or your certain areas that are have a higher vagus nerve innervation. There are many ways of doing it. Some people use cold water therapy or gargling or hamming, or there are so many ways. But vagus nerve stimulation, initially, actually, that came up, the implanted device that you get into the side of your neck. But that involves an operation and somebody who would agree to do it. And that was a no-no. So the next down the list was doing it yourself with an external TVNS device. And that's where I started, with a TENS machine and an ear clip.
So take us on that journey. You started with the TENS machine. What results did you see from that?
What was very interesting, because bearing in mind I had no guidance whatsoever. I had nobody to ask. I had nothing to guide me, except I knew the settings of Parasim. So I also knew what, various papers had written. So I plumped for 200 US and 30 hertz. But I was using a metal ear clip, which conducts a bit more strongly. So I found it quite prickly at the start, because I was on quite high settings. They're still within range even today, but we know now you should start lower, much lower, and then you don't get that prickly effect so much. But right away, I noticed while I was stimulating, I could swallow without pain. And I've had that sore throat for 28 years. And I thought that I'm imagining this can't be right. This is just some fluky, weird thing. And it came back immediately. I stopped stimulating. But on the next session, the same thing happened again. So I knew it was doing something that gave me hope. And that was the beginning of it.
So when you noticed that, and you could then hypothesize that there is indeed a positive impact of this, when did you shift from TENS, and what did you shift to next?
Well, I was on TENS for a year and a half, maybe. I was a long time on TENS, and I started with a MedFit, and I moved on to NeuroTrack, multi-TENS, because you could run 2 programs simultaneously. And I was doing a different treatment at the same time. So I thought, that'll cut my time in half, because I can do both together. And that's what I did. So, but the TENS, those two TENS machines for a year and a half got me from 95% bedridden to out of bed about 10 hours a day. I was able to go out once a week. I have more stamina. My crashes are shorter. My bowel works. These are all very, very positive things and life-changing things in the grand scheme of severe ME. So, yeah. But then I was looking at Sensate, and I introduced Sensate. I bought it secondhand because they're quite expensive. So I bought it secondhand and added Sensate in. I found it relaxing, but I'm not sure it did the same job as TVNS with a TENS machine.
Right.
So I couldn't have used Sensate on its own alone. I think it did not give me the energy boost, the stamina bit. So it was at most, and I would say at most it was relaxing. That was it.
So just for the audience, let's tease out the difference, because Sensate I've used, and it's a pebble, isn't it, that you put on your breastbone and it vibrates, and
yes.
you get some allegedly soothing music, depends on your taste in music.
Yes.
And it's supposed to, just calm the system, really. And I didn't find it very stimulating when I used it. I kind of felt intuitively I needed more vibration, actually, and more force through there than the Sensate pebble provided. But that was me. So that's the mechanism of Sensate. How does that differ then, Dawn, just for the people in the audience, from TENS? How do they work differently?
Well, a TENS is using electrical current that is going through the tragus in your ear. And that has vagus nerve innervation in that region. As you say, Sensate is used on the chest and it's via vibration. So it is a different mechanism. They are kind of complementary because one is relaxing and I found the other more giving me more energy. But I will just reinforce that this is how I'm responding to each device. This is not how everybody will respond, because there are people using TVNS and a TENS machine who find it very relaxing. I find it energizing. And there are people with Sensate who find it does a lot more than it did for me. So any device I'm mentioning and my reaction is solely my reaction to it. So
that's entirely fair, because we're talking here, aren't we, about we're all incredibly unique, although there are patterns and we can think about mechanisms in the human body generally, biophysically, and what we bring as people with MECFS20 is unique. We've got our own particular pathways, our own particular challenges. So that's really important. And also, I'm hearing very much that this was a very exploratory, experimental journey for you, where you're kind of feeling your way through these devices and tuning into your body and seeing exactly what your body is giving you in forms of feedback to guide your next steps.
Right. So it has been fascinating to trial. I think it's 8 devices now I've trialed. So it has been really fascinating to me to see the differences between each one and what the results are between each one. And there are some that have given me more results than others, but I never give up trying and, trying out new ones, because I think if I was to get 5% more functioning, that would make a big difference to my life, So I'm happy to trial devices, absolutely, and just give my honest feedback on it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is huge, and I'm very impressed by the Facebook group you run, where you share this information freely and clearly. Hundreds of people are helped by what you reflect. And as you say, there's no pretense, is there, of being like a universal expert offering a firm scientific opinion. You're just saying, this is my journey, here it is, people, this is my experience. And I've seen on the Facebook group how you've really helped people by emphasising going low and slow. So that's really, really important advice, isn't it, when you're trying a new device? As you said, when you first started with the tens, you kind of went in quite hard, and you've learned now that it's much more important to titrate more carefully. And so I think what you're doing is wonderful, Dawn.
Thank you.
So we've got two main mechanisms there. One is direct electrostimulation, and the other is vibratory stimulation. Where did you go after sensate? Because you had tens and sensate running convergently, if I heard you right. Where did you go after that?
So then it came to my attention that there was another vibration device for the chest called the Boyer stress releaser. But it was a lot more cost effective than the Sensate. And I thought, I wonder, does this do a similar job to Sensate, or is it different, or how does it differ? So I, again, in a sale somewhere, I bought the Boyer, and it is very similar to Sensate. However, Sensate works anything from 0 to 50 hertz, but it goes in a kind of random pattern. It might be at 30, then at 10, then at 15, then, and it goes in time with the music. Whereas the Boyer simply goes between two levels. Now, I can't remember if it's 40 to 50. I can't remember offhand, but it varies between only two vibrational levels. So you time your breathing in time with that. And Sensate also, you're meant to be timing your breathing, and it does make the devices that bit more effective if you're able to do breath work with it, but it's not absolutely necessary, I've found in my experience. But Boyer, I found stronger, so strong at points that I had to put a duvet in between me and it. And that dampens down the vibration if you find it too much. But Boyer will put me more into parasympathetic than Sensate ever did. So I found Boyer much more effective at bringing me into the blue, as we say. A lot of people measure heart rate variability and stress score. Now, that's not actual heart rate variability. It is based on heart rate variability, but it has orange for sympathetic and blue for parasympathetic. So it's a nice, clear guide to what you're doing and whether it's working or not. And Boyer brings me into the blue parasympathetic. So that was interesting to me. So I swapped from Sensate to Boyer.
That makes certain intuitive sense to me, because there's something about rhythmic regularity in stimulation that seems to replicate almost like a heartbeat in the womb or the rhythm of the ocean. There's just something that to me intuitively feels more calming about a solid rhythmic pulse.
I would agree, absolutely. And I think that's what I struggled with Sensate, was I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know where the vibration, there was no tune to it. It wasn't going up in an arc and down in an arc in the way that Boyer was. And I found that, if anything, a little unsettling, because I never knew which way it was going, and I was meant to be relaxing.
Exactly, and there's something about the randomness of that.
Random, that's the word, yes.
Sudden changes in, speed and all of that. it's not surprising in a way that the kind of animal sense of us would find that slightly activating rather than relaxing. So I'm not surprised that you say you didn't know where it was going. It's not even cognitive, is it? There's something embodied about it. The rhythmic, steady pulse, as opposed to the more erratic pulse.
Right. But then I've heard of people who absolutely swear by sensate. So it is very individual. For me, could only tolerate note echo, which is one track that they run. That was the only one I could tolerate. The rest left me unsettled, I would say. So that's not what you're aiming for with TVNS or VNS. So but Boyer suited me much better. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think also that question of intensity has an impact. I mean, I imagine that some people are more sensitive to different intensities than others. I know for myself, for example, if I go for a massage, I want a deep massage. I want to actually feel my muscles being pressed. I don't want to just be stroked. But some other people will find that painful. They'll get tense. They'll tense up, and what they need is something more gentle. And I'm sure there's something analogous that goes on with levels of stimulation of the vagus nerve. I'm sure for some people, the fact that sensate is less penetrating than the Boira would be intrinsically more calming for them if they actually need a less penetrating kind of vibration relax to. So again, as you say, highly individual.
Yeah.
So I see also that you tried something called Gamma Core, which is something I have never heard of, and I would love to hear what Gamma Core does.
Well, Gamma Core works by a different mechanism again. It works via the vagus nerve that runs down your neck. So it runs down either side of your neck, your vagus nerve from your brain, and you apply the Gamma Core device to one side of your neck. And again, it uses current, and each session is only 2 minutes because you are targeting 50% of your vagus nerve. So if you think about the vagus nerve in your ear, it's probably about 4% in your tragus of the actual vagus nerve. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to be effective, but it does mean that you might need more stimulation. I needed the advice from Parasim is 60 minutes for your ear, TVNS. I needed half an hour times 4 daily. I needed 2 hours daily to get the results I got. And again, that's very individual. There are people getting results on very little time. But the Gamma Core, each session is only 2 minutes because you are targeting far more of the vagus nerve. So I only needed, I think it was 4 or 5 sessions a day, which is 10 minutes. So it was great, but it gave me a very similar result to TVNS with an ear clip and a TENS machine.
Really fascinating. And does the word gamma have any significance here? Is it a gamma wavelength that's being used?
Not as far as I'm aware, no. But there's also Truvega, which is made by the same device company as Gamma Core. They use the same technology, but they're marketed differently. And Truvega is available in America for people over there, and they're marketed. One is marketed for migraine, and you need to fill out a questionnaire, and that's Gamma Core, and it's on a subscription basis. Truvega, you buy the device outright, and it's loaded with 350 sessions on it. And once those are done, the device is done. So they are quite expensive options, but they target a lot of the vagus nerve, and the treatment is shorter, much, much shorter. So pros and cons.
And did you get good results from it? I mean, you said it was very effective. What was the kind of overall effect on your arc of like how you feel physiologically? Did it make a significant uptick in your functioning?
I would say it was pretty similar to TVNS with an ear clip and a TENS machine. I don't think it gave me this golden land of more percentage of functioning, but it did do a very good job the same way that the TENS machine did. So, but in a very short amount of time. So that was the key with that, was that it was so quick. It was like, wow, I'm done. I'm done. That's it. It was great in that way. So yes, yeah, it was a good experiment, really.
And did you then move on to the AmmoFit? Is that what happened next?
Yes, I decided to try AmmoFit, and at that point, I bought AmmoFit S, and that works via the chest as well, but it is using electromagnetic waves. So it is different to everything else I had tried. So this was interesting. It is, for me, it was gentler. Then definitely gentler than GammaCore was, a hard hitter of, you got your treatment in a short amount of time. AmmoFit is something that some people can run all day and get calming results with it. But AmmoFit has a calm mode and a focus mode, and the S Plus, which is exclusive to the Facebook group Ava, is also has an immunity mode. So I experimented for months. I built up very slowly on the green calm mode and built up and built up and built up. And it was very good at getting me into a calm state. And I experimented with the red immunity and the blue focus. Both of those were a little more like TVNS with the ear clip, in that they gave me a bit of energy rather than a calming. So it was trying to find a sweet spot of what worked, what combination worked, how long. And this is what you're trying to work out with every device, is where is your personal sweet spot? And it's different for everybody. So, I was never able to run AmmoFit all day. That I couldn't do that. I would run into overstimulation. So I was doing it in batches, and, an hour and a half here and there, that kind of way. But it was gentle. I found it gentle. Yeah.
And so I just want to emphasize here for listeners that if you buy AmmoFit, there's something called AmmoFit S, and there's something called AmmoFit S Plus. And the S Plus is unique to Dawn's Facebook group with the immunity stimulating function. The AmmoFit S has the focus and the relaxation, but not the immunity. I think that's really key that people know that before they think, oh, yeah, I'll go out and get an AmmoFit, because that's exactly what I did. I went out and bought an AmmoFit and then belatedly realized that the AmmoFit S Plus was what I really needed. But I'm still dancing the AmmoFit S quite happily.
The group is called A Vegas Adventure, Ava for short. So if people are looking for it, and there's also 30% off it on Ava. So that's an even better deal, really. But we have a whole lot of more information on that on Ava itself.
And are you working with AmmoFit in the sense of giving them feedback from the group so that they can kind of use that in their ongoing research on the effectiveness of the immunity function?
Well, we don't ban companies from belonging to Ava. So we have we have representatives, that's the word, representatives from different companies within AVA who are watching to see what are the side effects, what are the problems people are running into, what are the issues, what are the good things, how is this working for people? So I don't mind that if people from companies are watching to see what's happening with their devices, but they're not allowed to flog their devices or recommend their devices. So they're welcome to watch and see. That's okay.
I think that's really important that they can, in a way, because this is a very significant population of people dealing with highly sensitive systems who can potentially really benefit from the technologies. So getting direct feedback, even though it's mostly anecdotal, I think is really important for the companies themselves.
Oh, I absolutely agree. But it also means that if I run up across a question I don't know the answer to, I generally have a link I can go back to within each company and I can say, what's the answer to this? So it's helpful to have that input from the people who make the devices themselves, but also for them to see how their devices are affecting such a unique patient group.
Yes.
Now, not everybody on AVA has ME or long COVID. There are people with other disorders on AVA. Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter what disorder you have. But the majority have ME and long COVID. And our systems are different. Our systems are generally more sensitive, and that has been interesting that the companies get the feedback that we are a sensitive bunch, and quite a lot of us fall into the ultra sensitive group. And that's why every device that we talk about on AVA, low and slow, keep going low and slow, start on the lowest settings, 1 minute, build from there and go from there. And that's because we're an ultra sensitive group, mostly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd 100% agree with that. So after AmmoFit, I know, Dawn, that you started to get into red light therapy, specifically from the point of view of vagal tone, which I haven't heard too many people do. I'm, fairly familiar with red light therapy, used myself extensively over the years, but not aiming necessarily at vagal tone. So I'm really, really excited and curious to hear what you've discovered.
Well, this was interesting because the company I bought from do a free one-on-one session to get you started with red light therapy. And I had that. And I said, I want to target my vagus nerve. And they didn't know any really much about that. They hadn't heard of somebody doing that before. So it has been an even more grand experiment with me trying to target my vagus nerve. So I have a belt of red light therapy and near infrared lights, and I can place that or wrap it around wherever I wish. So I use it on my torso, and that's to target the vagus nerve that it would be in your chest and abdomen. I do that twice a day. I also do it over my head. So nowhere near your eyes, but I do it from the top of my forehead up over the back of my head and down my neck. And I do that twice a day as well. And that's specifically for, my brain and brain function, but also my vagus nerve. I also do my legs, but that's nothing to do with vagus nerve stimulation. So again, that has been something I needed to build up. It at the time I was using AmmoFit S Plus, and I had to stop the S Plus because I was getting overstimulation using both on the same day. So overstimulation is something that we don't want, because that's normally negative, unwanted effects if you've overdone it. So I stopped the S plus and I carried on with the red light therapy. So that's basically at the moment I'm using red light therapy.
And so have you noticed any specific effect? I mean, targeting the brain is such a cool thing to do. Have you noticed any specific effects in terms of brain function, brain fog diminishing from the direct application of the red light therapy on the brain?
Oh, that's difficult to measure. I'm notoriously vague at the best of times. So the answer is I don't know. The jury's out on that. I wouldn't want to say, oh, absolutely, yes. It's not a clear thing if it is helping. But I tried it over from my ear to my other ear, and I didn't tolerate that so well. That actually hurt my ear. So I do it from front to back. I'm not sure is the answer. I'm not sure whether that's helping brain function.
And what's the actual device that you're using for that?
Well, I'm using a Pango pad from Red Light Rising. But there are other pads that do the same thing. So, it's just I wanted one that was in the same country. So if I was needing to send back for any reason or any issues, I would, it would be simple. So, yeah.
It's such an interesting idea to target the vagal tone issue with red light. It's such a cool connection to make. And I'm really intrigued to see where that will go, the experiment.
Yeah, I'm not sure at this point if it's enough vagus nerve stimulation. So I have experimented with bringing back in a little bit of some of the other devices I've tried before. I tried adding back in AmmoFit. I tried GammaCore a wee bit. I tried Boirer today. I tolerated the Boirer today with the after the red light, and so I am still experimenting, trying to find a sweet spot with it. I have not yet found the right combination. I need to work. I'm still working on that, so it takes time. You have to be slow and methodical and try and gently push you forward with each, you have to be careful. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that your latest adventure from following you on Facebook is Pulsetto.
Yes, well, I had a go with the Pulsetto. Now, that also works on the neck, a bit like GammaCore, but it works both sides of the neck. So you're targeting the whole of the vagus down your neck, either side. It starts intensity 1 on 4 milliamps. I found that a bit too much for me, but I could tell that it was doing a good vagus nerve stimulation job, but I could only tolerate 10 to 15 seconds of that.
Right.
So normally I would not be sitting on 4 milliamps. I'm sensitive. I would normally be sitting on 1 milliamp. If it was a TENS machine and an ear clip, it would be 1 milliamp. If it was GammaCore, it's 1.5 milliamps is the first intensity setting. So starting at 4 milliamps was just a bit too much for me. But again, I know people using Pulsetto who absolutely have no problem with 4 milliamps. Absolutely not. But I'm a bit sensitive. So if it started on 1 milliamp or 0.5 milliamps, I'd say I'd be grand. I'd be absolutely fine with it. but that it is what it is. So at the moment, I can't tolerate that. So that was very short-lived.
Mm.
But I have it there if I want to go back to it and try. Your tolerance to it changes day by day and even session by session. So that is perfectly normal that some days you would tolerate more milliamps than others. However, I would never go above, I don't think I've ever been above 5 milliamps on anything. And that was at the zenith of, my robustness. So, 4 milliamps is just a bit too much for me at the minute. So I only tried it over maybe 3 days, 4 days. But I got overstimulation very quickly. So I had to stop.
So your journey's taken you from 21 years bedbound through these various experimentations, and you said that very early on you were kind of up and about. Where have you got to now at this point in your journey with all this self-experimentation, exploration of all these devices? Where have you got to, Dawn?
Well, it took time to build up from being 95% bedridden to out of bed. It took months and months and months of working forward to try and get up and out. And, initially I'd be out for an hour and then, it became 2 hours and then so it was a gradual process. It was not a sudden, oh, brilliant, here I am out of bed. I taught myself to walk again. So I started taking steps but I'm still not at the point where I could walk around my home. I'm still a wheelchair user. My level is I'm out of bed anything from about 10 hours a day. And that's the kind of plateau I've reached. So that extra functioning from being out of bed is life-changing. And I've been ill altogether 30 years, and 21 of them were completely bedridden and like 5% up just to the toilet and back and, pushed there. That was it. So it's the plateau I'm on, I'm very happy with. I am very, very happy with. I am grateful. I feel very fortunate that I stumbled across this vagus nerve stimulation. It was chance. It was chance. I just keep reading, keep experimenting, and I happened upon it.
Stunning. One of the things I found really helpful in terms of vagus nerve stimulation that we haven't mentioned is something called the Apollo Neuro, which is a device that works again through it's almost like sonic input, sonic vibration, and you wear it either on your ankle or your wrist, and you can pick various different settings, and it sends rhythmic pulses into the body. And like you, I found the kind of more activating ones too activating. So I was pretty much more or less permanently using it in either the mindfulness setting or the sleep setting at night. But for me, I have to say that, I'm a very long-term meditator, and I had this core of activation in the center line of my body, which somebody described as vagal injury, and nothing I could do. Like, I used all sorts of tech. I had holosync meditation. I did all sorts of things. Even physiological stimulation of the vagus nerve through massage, thumping, pushing my ears, all the stuff, right? And nothing got there for me until I used the Apollo Neuro, which was the one thing that when I wore it over months, eventually that awful activation feeling in the center line of my body settled down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying Dawn the AmmoFit S. I find that energizing.
Oh, good.
I've got it on the calming setting at the moment, and I find that I've definitely noticed an improvement in my heart rate variability scores.
Oh, brilliant.
But for me, it comes in a tumult of other things I do. I do infrared saunas. I use a massive red light panel. I'm very into sunlight exposure. I, have loads and loads of mitochondrial biogenesis, cold showers, and I'm much further down the track, so I can do muscle building and various other things too. But even so, even in the midst of that, I would say that the vagal stimulation approach, apart from the sensate, which I really don't think I got much out of, has been really noticeably effective.
Oh, I'm delighted that you've also had benefits from that. I haven't tried Apollo Neuro. It's the cost puts me off that. So they're all kind of pricey, it's not direct vagus nerve stimulation, the Apollo Neuro. So I'm not well enough versed in that to know how that's actually functioning, because it's not direct vagus nerve stimulation. I'm not 100% sure. But if you're getting results, that's fantastic. So, excellent. I'm all for different devices working for different people.
For me, it was a game changer, honestly.
Yeah, wonderful.
But I have to confess to being a bit of a tech junkie generally. Because, it's a wonderful combination, isn't it, in our journey of returning to some fundamental foundations of human well-being. But very often to do that in the contemporary context and in the context in which our bodies became so systemically pressured by a virus and the aftermath, or by accumulated allostatic load, glyphosate, heavy metals, whatever the routine is, sometimes we do have to get a little bit tech to actually redress that. And what I find really inspiring about your journey, apart from the fact that you came from such colossal debility to where you are, which I think is an extraordinary thing, 21 years bedbound, to being able now to be out of bed for 10 hours a day, is an extraordinary journey. But also the way in which you've so sensitively and carefully and wisely experimented in a dance between your physiological response and the various things that you've tried. It's beautiful because it feels like Braille. It feels like you've got this beautiful, sensitivity that you're feeling your way through, and that feedback that you've got from your body, that intelligent working relationship that you've had with your body, has really rewarded and brought you to where you are. And it's very inspiring to see, Dawn.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. It has just been a grand Vegas adventure, it really has. I mean, the group name suits what we're all doing. We are on this adventure and we are experimenting. And with Ava, we have a research team on board now as well. So, we're hoping to get research into ME and TVNS. That's our aim. So, we're at the kind of forefront and cutting edge of trying this, and trying different devices is, to me, very interesting, because I can now compare. I don't know, is it 8 on that list or something? But I think it's it's I can compare the first to the last and all the ones in between, what result it had for me.
Yeah, which is terrific. And then you're sharing that information with others and inspiring and inviting others onto their own version of this journey of, using tech to directly or indirectly stimulate the vagus nerve, which is brilliant. So how would people find you, Dawn, if they want to join Ava? Is it, I can't remember, is it A Vagus Adventure on Facebook? You just look up A Vagus Adventure. Is that the name you put?
Yes, if you look up A Vagus Adventure Ava, that will bring up the group. There's only one group called that. So that's the easiest way. And there's a couple of questions to answer and tick the rules, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, so I just want to finish by thanking you and also warmly recommending to listeners that you do, if you're on Facebook, do join this group, because there's extraordinary information there. And Dawn's got a kind of, I believe you've got a kind of information spot, Dawn. I saw that there was a post with all sorts of research and information on it, which is really, really useful.
Yes, we have it's called the One Stop Info Slot. So it is pinned to the top of the group, and it has every link that you will need. So, from the device advice document to the settings guide to the ear clip options, the voucher vault, we have everything all in one place. So it's simple, very simple. Yeah, but it's it's the support really that people need of a group, and people who can be there for each other. And we're just a patient group. That's what we are. I'm a patient, no different to anyone else. It's just a support group for anyone who wants to look into and try vagus nerve stimulation.
Yeah, so I want to thank you for that, because you've facilitated something extraordinary for people. And I also want to thank you for the conversation today, Dawn, and coming and generously giving up your time for the audience. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.